Okay, boys, that's enough. Hello, Tim Haldeman here with another episode of Tales of a Bit Actor. This one involves the legendary comedian Shecky Greene, who passed away recently at the age of 97 years old. He was a very funny man. I got to meet Shecky Greene back in the early 2000s. We were both at a charity golf tournament down in Palm Springs, California. Shecky Greene was the guest of honor for this golf tournament. And I got to perform some stand-up at the big dinner show. And Shecky Greene got up and closed the show, did about 20 minutes of stand-up. And he was absolutely hysterical. And this was interesting because Shecky Greene had retired from performing. He suffered from anxiety, had panic attacks, and became a bit of a recluse. But his wife encouraged him to get back out there, meet people. And so he ended up closing the show, did about 20 minutes, and he was absolutely hysterical. More about that in a minute. We have to go back to the 1960s. And our family was in Miami, Florida. My dad, Ed Haldeman, and my godfather, Ben Chapman, were president and vice president of Ivan Tors Studios. They supervised the building of the studios, and that's where they filmed the television show Flipper. In 1967, Frank Sinatra came down to Miami, and he filmed a movie called Tony Rome, which he was the star of as the detective. The executive producer was Aaron Rosenberg, and he was an old friend of my dad and my godfather's. So Aaron Rosenberg came to Ivan Tors Studios to tour the facilities and said, boy, this is great. We'd love to film the interiors of the movie on the lot. I said, great. Now, my little Italian mom never bothered my dad to come to the set and meet people, the famous people that he worked with over the years. But when she found out that Frank Sinatra was going to be at the studio, she said, Ed, I want to meet him. So the whole group was my dad and my mom, my godfather, Ben Chapman, and his wife, Tay, and Aaron Rosenberg and Vicky all go to the set during a lunch break to meet Sinatra. Now, at that time, Sinatra traveled with 2 bodyguards everywhere. I mean, if he was at a party and got up and crossed the room, they would cross with him, okay? So they meet Sinatra, they have a nice conversation and at the set, and Sinatra says, you know what, tomorrow night I'm opening at the Fontainebleau Hotel. Why don't you guys come and see me? And they said, oh, that'd be great. And he says to one of the bodyguards, get him a table. Story goes that the bodyguard goes to the maitre d' of the Fontainebleau main showroom and says, Mr. Sinatra needs a table for 6 tomorrow night. Oh, monsieur, please forgive me. I have the mayor coming, the governor coming. Any other night they have come on me, no problem. Mr. Sinatra needs a table for 6 tomorrow night. Monsieur, please, look, I am exceeding fire regulations right now. I cannot put another person in the room. Any other night, no problem. You don't have a table? No. He decks the maitre d' of the Fontainebleau Hotel. Now, I know this is true because the next day I asked my mom, I said, Mom, how was the show? They said, oh, it's fabulous. We had this great table. It was a little off to the side, but before the show, the maitre d' comes over and apologizes because the table isn't more in the center of the showroom. And he had this big black eye. So we found out it's true. Okay, now, Shecky Greene was Frank Sinatra's opening act. And back then, Shecky Greene was a big drinker. Lots of stories about Shecky Greene and his drinking. And during the run, it was reported in the paper that Shecky Greene was mugged in an alleyway and put in the hospital. It was, true, it took him days to recover. But we heard a different story from the production manager on Tony Rome. The story goes is that Frank Sinatra came into the lobby of the Fontainebleau Hotel after one of the shows, and here is Shecky Greene drunk, berating, screaming at this young woman in the lobby because she wouldn't go up to his room with him. Sinatra didn't like that and said, take care of it, to his bodyguards. So the story goes is that they took him out into the alleyway, beat the shit out of him, and put him in the hospital. But it was reported that he was mugged. So we heard this story. We weren't quite sure if it was true, but that's what we heard. Okay, back to the golf tournament, dinner show, Shecky Greene closing the show, doing about 20 minutes, right in the middle of his set. He said, "That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Frank Sinatra was a dear friend. As a matter of fact, he saved my life. In an alleyway in Miami one night, he said, 'Okay, boys, that's enough.'" So I went, "It's true." See you next time.